Hey guys, today we're going to talk about dividing polynomials. And I say here that you can divide polynomials in other ways. There's ways that you definitely looked at in Algebra 2. We're not going to re-go through those things. Those are things that you can learn if you really need to use them in the future. Today we're just going to focus on synthetic division because this is going to help us do some of the things in the rest of this section. So we're moving on here from matrices. And I'm going to look at some polynomials in division and a little bit of graphing before we take a test on this stuff. So with synthetic division, a few notes here. You can only use this when dividing by a binomial term in x minus c form. Okay, x is the variable, c is a number. Okay, so that's going to be some number. And so in order to do synthetic division, once you know that you have this form, you recognize the x minus c, you must solve for x by plugging that term equal to 0. So what ends up happening is you have x minus c, you make it equal to 0, solve for x, so I add c to both sides, and x equals c. And this sort of value c is what we're going to use in order to do the synthetic division. A few other notes here that you can come back and look at once you start doing some of these. Always check to make sure that you have all the terms in descending order. What does that mean? Hopefully you know, but if not, descending means going from highest to lowest. And this is their exponent. So their exponent should be in descending order. So for example, if your highest exponent is 4, it should go 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 0 if there's no variable term. And if a term is missing, replace it with a 0. Okay, so that's important here. Your answer's highest degree will always start one less, and this is exponent. When it talks about degree, that means exponent. So your answer's highest degree will always start one less exponent than the original degree. The reason for that is that we're dividing by an x here, so that takes away an x, and my exponent goes down. Alright, so let's try some examples with that. Using synthetic division, I'm going to do this x minus c, solve for c first. Alright, so if I have an example here, divide using synthetic division. 8x cubed plus 5x squared minus 5 divided by x plus 7. Well, first thing we need to check for is this. Do I have this? I can use this only when I'm dividing by that x minus 3. Okay, so here I notice that it's this divided by this. Alright, this is x minus c. It says x plus 7, but it's in the same form. It can be plus or minus. So again, the first thing I need to do is equal this to 0 to solve for my c value. We've done this before. So x plus 7 equals 0. Solve for x equals negative 7. Okay, this value is what I'm going to put out here in a little half box. Okay, then next to it, I'm going to write the coefficients, okay, of my original term. So I have 8x cubed plus 56x squared minus 5. Well, looking back at this, remember, always check to make sure that you have all terms in descending order. If a term is missing, replace it with 0. Alright, well I did this one on purpose because I see x cubed, x squared, and then there's no x here. So what we're missing is an x to the first. And since we're missing that, I have to replace this with a 0. Okay, and so again, I'm going to use coefficients. So here my coefficient's 8. I'm going to put that here. 56. I'm going to put that here. We're missing the x to the first term, so I'm going to replace it with a 0, and then the no x, or the x to the 0 term, negative 5. Okay? So again, missing a term, I replace it with a 0. So here I'm going to do division and some multiplication. I'm sorry, division through multiplication. So I'm going to put this big old line down here. This first term, 8, always comes down. 8 comes down. Now I multiply this term times the value we had for c. So negative 7 times 8 is negative 56. Okay? And I put that in here. Now these two I'm going to add. Alright, I get 0. Again, this term below here multiplies with this term. 0 times negative 7 0. Add 0. 0 times negative 7, 0. Add negative 5. Okay? So these are the coefficients of my answer polynomial. Okay? You'll notice we have some zeros here, so we got to figure out what to do with those. I want to go back and look quickly here. Your answer's highest degree will always be start one less than the original. Okay? So I know where to start at least. My original had an x cubed, so my answer is going to start x squared because it's one less than the 3. And my coefficient of that here is an 8. Okay? So this is 8x squared term. That means this is the x term, this is the no x term. So what's this? This, if you remember from division problems, is the remainder. Okay? And since these are both zeros, we don't need to write terms for those, but we do need to account for the remainder. And so it's a negative, so I'm going to put a minus. Okay, and this remainder is over what we divided by. So this becomes 5 is left over out of my original dividing term here, the x plus 7. And this is my answer. Okay, so again, 8x squared because it's one less than the original. 0, 0, I don't need to account for those because there's no term, the coefficient 0. So this is x no x, which means this last term is my remainder. I put this in a fraction over the original dividing term, which is x plus 7. Okay, let's try one more. Okay, a little bit longer, that's all right. You will notice though, x to the 4, 3, 2, this is x to the 1, and then no, so there's no zeros here, nothing's going to be replaced. So hopefully you remember, first thing I need to do here is find my c, so x minus 4 equals 0, add 4, and x equals 4. Okay. So this 4, again, I'm going to put out here, a little box thing. And next to it, I write my coefficients, and I have them all here. So 7, negative 38, 31, 28, 32. Okay, put a line. First term 7 always comes down. 7 times 4 is 28. Add these together. Negative 38 times 28, negative 10. Negative 10 times 4, negative 40. Add these together, negative 9. Negative 9 times 4, negative 36. Add these together, what do I get? Negative 8? Yep. Negative 8 times 4, negative 32. Add these together, and I get 0. Okay? So, those are our coefficients. Now we need to write our answer. So again, here we started with an x fourth. So my answer starts with x cubed. So that means this is the x squared, x, no x. And this is my remainder. Well, this is a 0, which means there's no remainder. So I'm not going to have the same thing as the last problem where I have a fraction. So my answer is 7x cubed minus 10x squared minus 9x minus 8. There's no x here. There's no remainder. So these divide evenly into each other, and that's my answer. Okay? So, actually, there's no CPP, I don't think. Well, we'll do this anyway. Roll it again. All right, add these up. If there is a CPP, there may not be. Then put the sum of these in there. All right, great. See you in class.